Good evening. Every journey that a human being takes is a long one. You can measure it in distance, you can measure it in time, you can measure it in experience. I took a short journey coming up those stairs, and it changes the way I'm looking at the hall now. I was there, a part of the audience a few seconds ago. I'm suddenly here and facing all of you. Perhaps the shortest distance any human takes is from the womb to the outside world. It is perhaps also the most eventful. When life comes to an end, we may think of it as having been very short, but when it is on a long, winding, twisting road, it seems that it's never going to end. Like everyone else here, my journey is still on. And what I'm going to talk about now is a little bit of the journey, of my journey, or what I have seen. One eye on the rear view mirror, one eye on the windshield, and if I had a third eye, perhaps looking somewhere else. It is a journey that is an individual journey, which as an individual I have made individually. I can't be in your shoes, you can't be in mine. At every point in our lives, I think for everyone, there does come a point of time when we are deeply dissatisfied with what we are doing. We are dissatisfied with the way things are going. It happened to me. There was a point of time I couldn't see myself doing what I was doing the following day, let alone be doing it for the rest of my life. I was very fortunate in having an absolutely amazing family, an absolutely wonderful bunch of friends. Suddenly there came an enormous amount of pressure on me. Stop what you're doing. It's not giving you any happiness. And because you are so unhappy, because you're so irritable all the time, it's making everybody else around you so unhappy. Go back to your first love, writing. That was a very, very long time ago. I started with doing the odd bits and pieces, a little article. If I made a collection of all the rejection slips which I had collected over the years, I perhaps could fill half a wall with cards about this size. But then it often happens. It is a chance conversation. It is a line read somewhere. It is something heard somewhere that suddenly gives direction to where you're headed. For me, it was a chance conversation overheard in one of the dirtier, more crowded parts of our town. Here was this family, obviously a family of tourists. There was this roly-poly one child, roly-poly other child, an equally roly-poly mother. All of them were complaining. There was the distinctly corpulent father who suddenly snapped at all of them and told them to keep quiet. But that was only because he wanted to unfurl his own flag of complaints. Within a few seconds, all four were holding on to a railing, breathing heavily and complaining. Then the mother suddenly snapped. She says, "Why did you bring us to this horrible place? Why did you bring us to Shimla? What is in this place? It's nothing but Ludhiana on a hilltop." While I'm sure there is much to commend Ludhiana, it's a very prosperous industrial town. It is very well known for its extremely flamboyant lifestyle, but it is certainly not Shimla. Not in shape, not in size, not in character. But for me, that stray remark came with the precision of a scalpel. It hit straight at what I should have been looking at all my life. Something that had been staring at me in my face since perhaps the time I was born. My town, Shimla. The history of my town. I got started on writing my first book. That start took 5 years. That 5 years I would actually like to look back and say it was a party. I had a blast. I enjoyed going through files. I enjoyed going through dusty papers. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed putting it all together. It was a point of time when I think the day I must be working at times up to 16 hours a day, and sometimes wishing that the day had 32 hours. My first book was done, found a publisher, book came out, did well, all that is also history now. But in that it emerged that what we are looking at is sometimes what we are not seeing. For example, in this town's past, all of us here, I'm sure we've traveled up the Kalka Shimla Road at least several times in our lives. How many of us know that it was perhaps the first major mountain highway to be built anywhere in the world? Or that the Kalka Shimla Railway line was a major engineering feat of its time? Or for that matter, that when this town became the summer capital of this country, it was connected to the rest of the world by one narrow mountain path and 2 telegraph lines. And it used to be said at that time that if there is a landslide or if a tree falls down, the government of India is cut away from whatever it rules. Or that there have been such momentous events which have taken place within a few kilometers of where we sit. Events that have defined the history of the Indian subcontinent. Events we're still living with today. There was the declaration of the First Afghan War in 1838, which left 20,000 soldiers and camp followers dead. There was the demarcation of the McMahon line that demarked the borders between India and China. There was the Radcliffe line, which demarked the borders of India and Pakistan, closer to our own time. There was the India-Pakistan Accord, which was supposed to bring peace on our borders. These and several other things were things that I didn't know when I started writing. Working on that book, one was creating a chronology, creating a sequence of events, writing about them. But there was also the thing, at the end of the day, I would have been something, had I lived 50 years or 80 years before my time, I would have been a colonial subject. And I was writing about a colonial subject. I should either be condemning, or I should be praising, or I needed to find a viewpoint of my own. And somewhere between those shades of black and white, I found my own little shade of grey. History is like a shadow. It remains parked at the back of our heads. You shine the light from here. It will show you what lies behind you. You shine the light from here, it can indicate a path to where you're going. The lights are shining on the sides here, so perhaps I'll have to figure something out on what's happening on the sides too. Like the shadows we form, every human being, every culture, every nation has something that makes it distinct, that sets it apart from all others. For some, it is a wonderful form of governance. For another, it is a great civic order. For others, it's their cuisine or their music. What is it that makes our country apart, what sets it apart from every single other country in the world? It may not be in honest governance. It may not be in sparkling civic order. We have our music. We have our food. But these become components of a far larger picture of what one would call the history and heritage of our great country. Today, something that is bombarded at us from all sorts of quarters is that we are going to be the world's next superpower. Very unlikely, at least not in a hurry. Ground reality dictates otherwise. To quickly just go through a couple of things, what would need you to become a superpower? You have to be extremely powerful militarily. You have to be extremely powerful economically. You have a singularity of purpose as a nation. And that singularity of purpose would mean that you would be pushing almost everything else aside. This is among of at least 20 different reasons why I think we cannot be a superpower, at least for the next 40 or 50 years, if we want to become a superpower. And on the other hand, why should one want to become a superpower in a military sense at least? As long as you can hold your own and you can set your own house in order, I think you're doing just fine. In our country, for our country I should say, what is it where we are already a superpower? In our history, in our heritage, India is perhaps the world's greatest superpower. Nobody has what we do. Unfortunately, we've not articulated it, we've not focused on it, we've not preserved it. We don't have to go hunting and digging for history and heritage. We have our archaeological digs. Take this hall, for example. When it was built out of a design prepared in a different country. It catered to people who came from a different country. Where I am standing now, the cast would have been of people who belonged to a different country. The audience would have been people who belonged to a different country. They would have been speaking in English, maybe which is the language I am speaking in now. But at that point of time, how many in our country understood that language? And yet, all those years later, without anyone of that country being involved in it, we as Indians have restored it. We have made it a part of our heritage. We have not pulled it down. We fixed it. This is what sets us apart. We have the ability to listen to the voice of the other. We have the ability to absorb different voices and create a very distinct voice of our own. Like the proverbial long arm of the law, history also has a very, very long arm. And it comes from all sorts of different places. It is an arm which is a very unforgiving arm. History, you may ignore it, as many of us do. It is one of the most ruthless and unforgiving disciplines. 500 years from now, somebody can look ahead and say, hey, you went wrong there. But on the other hand, that arm also has a hand. And that hand can turn into something warm, caressing, caring. It is a hand so equally capable of turning into a hard fist. It's a hand which can give gifts. It is a hand which offers something to ourselves, preserving our country's great heritage and our great history, articulating ourselves as the world's great cultural superpower. We are not looking for hegemony here. We are not looking for dominance here. We are just giving a gift to ourselves and giving a gift to the rest of humanity. Thank you.